My husband, 28 male, and I, 28 female, are struggling with different communication styles. My husband and I have been together nearly a decade. We have always been different, especially in terms of hobbies and interests. Over the past couple years we have found that our communication styles are different as well, and it's been leading to some challenges. My husband is the kind of person who wants to tell me everything. He sends me a lot of memes, news stories, and just whatever is on his mind during the day. At home, he likes to talk in detail about the projects he's working on, video game news, stuff like that. He doesn't pick and choose stuff he wants to share with me versus others, like his gamer friends. Sometimes he'll send me something like an eBay listing for an old game system and I'll ask him point blank, "Why did you send me this?" And he'll say, "It was interesting to me and I wanted to share it with you." I appreciate the sentiment, but what does he expect me to say to that? I've never played this system in my life. I don't like video games. He can buy whatever he wants. When he talks about his interests I try and listen, ask questions, but I often find my mind wandering to the point where I've heard nothing out of his mouth. It is a struggle at times to just listen. He's also the kind of guy who wants to rant about bad news and I just can't handle it. I read the news, internalize it, and don't want to talk about it. Talking just makes everything worse. Meanwhile, I'm someone who aggressively curates things before sharing. I talk about sports with sports friends, books with book friends, etc. My husband gets my day-to-day updates, news about family and work, etc. We try to take a walk every day and sometimes we just walk in silence because I run out of conversation topics very quickly. I don't mind the silence when it's agreed upon, but this is awkward silence. He just expects me to generate random facts and ideas when my brain doesn't work that way. Sometimes he'll send me a piece of trivia and I'll say, "Oh yeah, I knew that," and he'll say, "Then why have you never told me?" I mean, dude, how am I supposed to know what trivia you want to hear? This is a pretty small problem in the grand scheme of things, but it would be great to find some sort of middle ground here to help our communication along. Any ideas? TLDR, my husband and I have different philosophies when it comes to sharing interests and we need a middle ground. Maybe try being less of an aggressive curator. You've got your friends who like sports in the sports friends box, your friends who like books in the book friends box, and your husband by himself in the husband box, which by the sound of it is also the don't know how to talk to him at all box. He sounds like his interests are broad, so why is it the only things you bring up to him are family and work updates? He'd probably love to hear about what you're reading. Or if instead of responding to trivia with, "Yeah, I knew that," you sent back something you've discovered on your own that you find interesting. Like if the trivia was an animal fact, you responded with another crazy animal fact that maybe he doesn't know. Maybe give it a try. I don't want to minimize this issue. I have another family member who has a much different communication style than me and it gets on my nerves. However, if this is the only problem in your relationship, be thankful and put it in perspective. You can continue to kindly express to him that you have different communication styles. If it's warranted, maybe see a therapist together about it. Have you tried being appreciative that he is thinking of you and coming up with some positive responses when he sends you things instead of sounding defensive and like you're blocking his attempts at reaching out to you? Basically being less rigid. Books with book friends sounds quite compartmentalized, and realizing his method of communication and thinking has merit too. You have to be open to him and then ask him to try not sending you quite so much stuff to be open to your ways too. You have to be open to compromise. You're a user of Reddit. When you look at the site, maybe you could send him links to the things you find interesting, or you could talk about them together. If he looks at Reddit too, it could be a regular source of conversation. "Hey, did you see that post about the frogs on that guy's roof? Oh yeah, that was wild. Did you read the article about Taylor Swift's collection of Yu-Gi-Oh cards? No? Okay, get this. I appreciate the sentiment, but what does he expect me to say to that? Ask him. All we can do is speculate. I can definitely relate to what you have described. I curate and compartmentalize. My friend of 20 years still has no idea that her favorite singer is unbearable for me. Another friend of mine used to update his every move via text 24/7. It drove me crazy. And I had to tell my parents that do not text me in the morning unless it's an emergency. Mundane details and small talk irk me. I'm great at small talk actually, and I know exactly what to say, to engage, to start or keep a convo. But at the end of day, I want to be alone. Sometimes I wonder if I'm on the spectrum. I don't want to throw diagnosis around, but your husband has an awfully autistic sounding communication style. Not adapting conversation to the audience, wanting to talk a lot and in detail about specialized interests, expecting you to do the same and not understanding that most people don't want to hear hours of minutiae or have gigabytes of memorized factoids to fill any small silence. Have you considered he might be beyond the spectrum? I don't mean anything negative by it, just an observation. I'm sorry, you sound awfully boring.